Welcome to JWL Sports, where we review all the best sports tips from around the world. If this is your first time checking out a video, please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. We're watching a clip of First Things First, talking about Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. There seems to be kind of a little bit of back and forth between the Cowboys and Dak and Jerry Jones, and 1 minute it's saying, Jerry is saying, we have full support behind Dak, and we think that Dak is a Super Bowl winning capable quarterback. And on the other side, it's coming out that, Dallas is willing to let Dak hit the free agency market, in 2025. So, it's an interesting thing, because if you have a quarterback that you truly love and want to be with, for the long term, who you think can truly get you to win consistently, you're not going to let him, hit the market. So let's take a listen to see what, Nick and Brew have to say, and then we can break it down from there.
General sentiment was that there was an extension coming down the interstate. Jerry did say he was all in on extending the players who are currently on the roster, but Florio, he sees it differently, writing, with no ability to tag him in 2025 and no apparent inclination to extend the deal now, the Cowboys seem to be willing to let him finish the contract and see what happens. Oh, would this be a smart move by Dallas, Nick?
It'd be one of the boldest moves we've seen a team make under the current salary cap constructs. We have not seen a team willingly allow a healthy, his age, Pro Bowl level quarterback just hit free agency and roll the dice with it. And so it would be borderline unprecedented under the current, salary cap structures, franchise tags, all of that. But I've got to tell you, I would like it.
Oh.
I think there are a lot of different.
This makes no sense from Nick Wright, because he's been so high on Dak, saying that he's the MVP, saying that the Cowboys should be able to go to the Super Bowl and all this type of stuff, and yet now he's saying that it would be a good thing. That makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Ways, and you guys know I feel this way, but I will reiterate it, to win the Super Bowl in the NFL. Obviously, the easiest way is have one of the two greatest quarterbacks ever, Mahomes and Brady, because they have won a disproportionate amount, in the salary cap era. But if you don't have one of those guys, there's a lot of ways to do it. Young quarterback, or you're the young, cheap quarterback, mid-level quarterback with an amazing supporting cast, below average quarterback with this amazing defense. We've seen a lot of different versions. The thing we have not seen is mediocre quarterback on superstar quarterback money. And if we look at, and this is a bunch of numbers being thrown at you real quick, I'll just put it up and I'll walk you through it. The key here is that's their cap hit and the rank. So Mahomes and Brady were able to do it with top 5 cap hits, make the Super Bowl. Mahomes won it, obviously, back-to-back with the second and the highest. The only other one that if you're the Cowboys going to extend Dak, you're like Matt Ryan 2016 with the third highest cap hit, but that year Matt Ryan won league MVP. They had the Shannon system, all of that. There really isn't a precedent for it. So I just feel like if Dak's agent right now is saying starts at $60 million a year, guys.
Starts at 60?
The reports are he wants
60. I mean, that's where it would be, Wilds. And that's what I've been telling you guys, that it would be 3 years, 180 to start with, almost all guaranteed. I might roll the dice instead, Brew, and risk getting back on that quarterback carousel rather than lock myself into having to tear down a team so I can pay the 9th or 10th or 11th best quarterback in football like he's the first, second, or third.
Well, first of all, we have to realize this may be spin. Okay, this may be the Cowboys putting this out there to the media, right? Because this is being reported in a lot of different places that they may be putting this out to the media to try to get some leverage, because Dak has all the leverage. Okay, that said,
it's interesting.
I'm kind of with you. At first, I was thinking, oh, they got to sign him, they got to extend him, because I don't think they should be willing to move on from Dak, even though he is 8th, 9th, whatever, somewhere between 6 and 10 or 11 as far as quarterbacks. But the thing is, if they let him play out this year and they don't win the Super Bowl, it's not like they can't re-sign him as a free agent.
Correct.
And this is where I think it's starting to make sense. Because at first, when I first started seeing these reports, I was like, look, they got to sign him. You don't want to go from that 5-6 year stretch where you were between Troy Aikman and Tony Romo, and you're just searching for a quarterback.
Yeah.
All right, they're not good enough. As good as they are, they're not good enough, I don't think, to have like a bad or mediocre quarterback and really be a contender. So I want to keep Dak, okay? But if this year it's $60 million a year, which is those are what the reports are saying, Kirk Cousins, and I guess you weren't. Are you looking at his age? Is that why you didn't consider? Okay.
Yeah, because he's 36 and coming off an Achilles.
Right. Now, he just got $45 million.
Yes.
So what if they let Dak play on this prove-it year? They go out in the second round again. He's okay, whatever. But they want to bring him back. They let him enter free agency. Is somebody giving him $60 million a year? The most he might get might be $52 million a year. So you're better off signing him next year as a free agent.
Okay, well, he's creating a very specific situation there, right? This hopeful situation that if he goes and hits the market, that people will only pay him like $52 million. That may or may not be the case. I mean, we see people, and it seems like, around the league after the whole Deshaun Watson debacle, and same thing with Russell Wilson, that GMs and ownership and coaches for that matter are all a little bit more like hesitant to say, okay, we're just going to bring in another existing quarterback and pay him a boatload of money. But is it out of the question that, let's say, Bryce Young ends up being just like a complete bust, right? Just an absolute failure, or the Steelers, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. It's just clear that both those quarterbacks are just awful. They're not going to do anything, right? Is it possible that the Steelers say, hey, we have a pretty good squad, we got to get going, or the Panthers say, oh my God, we got to right the ship already, we'll pay Dak Prescott $60 million a year? I think that is technically a possibility. I wouldn't say that it's just in the realm of impossible. I don't think it would be a good contract move, of course. But in terms of the Cowboys just trying to be like, yo, fine, sure, you can hit the market. I think if you're looking to develop a long-term relationship with a quarterback in that regard, right? You want to be able to be like, Dak, we need to be on the same page here. I don't want to offer you $52 million a year because you now go out and see that other people are offering you $52 million a year. But if I don't offer you that now, then, you're going to be kind of upset about it. Or if I do offer it to you now and say, hey, listen, we're going to give you 52, and you're like, well, I can get more than that. And now we're all bitter at each other, but then now you're going to go hit the market, realize that you maybe can't get that, and then you'll now have to come back to Dallas, or you realize, hey, I can actually get 60, and you aren't even willing to give me to 60, like, kind of screw you. I'd rather play in Pittsburgh now, change the scenery, it's always good for people. So I just think that, and a lot of times when you're talking about like long-term relationships with your quarterback, it's very much like dating. Like, you want to, it's both business and dating. Like, you want to go about it in the way that is going to give you not only the best chances of success on the field, but then also off the field. Like, it's a lot of relationship building. You want Dak to feel wanted and appreciated and needed. And same thing with like the ownership and the team wants to feel that like, Dak is, taking a deal that is appropriate. It sounds like Dak is of the mindset of like, get me my money. I want $60 million. This is what the rate is going. I am just as good as Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, any of these guys. I am not taking less. I am not Kirk Cousins. Even though he is Kirk Cousins, Dak Prescott is a $45 million quarterback. That is the stone cold reality. That is who he is. Somehow, the whole sports world has been tricked into believing that Dak is something that he is not. And that is the fundamental issue. And it's what Nick said, and it's what I've been saying forever. And although I don't know why Nick is finally saying it now, but they're paying him top dollar, and yet he's used the word mediocre. Mediocre sounds too strong of a word, even though mediocre does mean average, but it sounds more of like a diss in that regard. An average / slightly above average quarterback. And, it's the worst place to be. It's the worst place to be to have a pretty good quarterback, but not great, and yet you still have to pay him a ton of money because you're just like, well, that's how much quarterbacks go for. And no, seriously, no. There's an argument that you're better off having like a Fitzpatrick or a Gardner Minshew, paying him $35 million, or a Baker Mayfield, paying him like $30, $35, $40 million, and just stacking your team a la, very similar to like the 49ers. And now granted, we throw around those things like that, right? Like the 49ers, like it's so easy just to like get all these great players. I mean, the 49ers, make no mistake about it, not only did they draft incredibly well, but then they made very smart acquisitions. Like it was wheeling and dealing. It wasn't just like, it's so easy just to like pick up and buy all these great players here, right? It's not the easiest thing to do. So you have to be able to draft well, build a great team, and which also takes time. But you could legitimately make the argument that it is better off to have that, because Dak Prescott, seriously, he has not shown any strong sense of being able to legitimately get to an NFC Championship game, a Super Bowl, let alone win those games. And the reality is, with these other quarterbacks that we know who are, better than Dak, the whole thing is that every year, it's not the fact that they either can do it or that they do it, but every year, Joe Burrow can get you into a Super Bowl. Okay? Josh Allen can play good enough to get you there. Same thing with Jalen Hurts. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes. We know that. Dak Prescott has never proven that. He has never balled out in a truly competitive, high-pressure game in the playoffs and won. He's never done it. Never. Never. And don't try to cook the books and point to some other games where he, threw for, 300 plus yards and 3 touchdowns. I don't want to hear it because we know it's BS. Okay? Dak Prescott couldn't handle the moment that happened with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, in the famous 13-second game. Okay? Dak Prescott didn't outduel Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl like Jalen Hurts did. Okay? Dak Prescott doesn't have the arm like Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert. So again, it's not a matter of just pure success of, well, those quarterbacks didn't win Super Bowls, and that's such a cop-out just to kind of throw that. Well, they didn't win a Super Bowl and therefore they're the same. No, they're not. In no way, if we were drafting all these quarterbacks right now, in no person in their right mind would ever pick Dak Prescott ahead of Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, or maybe Jalen Hurts, you could make the argument technically, although I disagree with that. Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert. There's just no way. Absolutely, positively no way. And so, Lamar Jackson even. And so I just think you have to be more honest about who Dak is and what you should do. And the reality is, though, I wouldn't bank on the other teams making the right decisions, because the Brews' whole thing is, let Dak see what else is out there. He'll see that he won't be able to get $60 million. This is where another dating example is perfect, right? It's like if you're breaking up with someone, you're like, this girl is crazy. Oh my God. She's legitimately crazy. I don't want to be with her anymore. I got to break up with her. There's God, who's going to ever want to date her? She's an awful human being. She's a brat. She's selfish. She's needy. She's, just wants your money, all this type of stuff. And you would be like, God, get her out of here. I don't want anything to do with her. No guy should ever date her. And that girl is dating someone within 2 minutes. She's already got some other guy wrapped around her finger. And that's what happens in sports all the time. We see it all the time. It's always one man's trash is another man's gold. We see this in baseball, basketball, football, soccer. It's every sport under the sun. So if your whole idea is to bank on the idea that no one is going to give Dak top dollar, that's a risky gamble. So again, if you want to keep Dak as your quarterback, but you want to do it at a lower price, fine, then do that. If not, then I would say Dak, you know, if Dak doesn't want to do that, then be like, okay, we're moving on then. Okay, listen, you can go out and if you can go get $60+ million, that's great. We're not going to match it, but you know what? Like, we are going to resent you if you realize that you can't. If you happen to not be able to get that 60 million, and the best offer you're getting is like 52 or something. Like, we would rather you do this here. We'll give you extra guaranteed money, and you know you're going to make this money on the back end. You know, by wearing the star. You go to the Steelers or the Carolina Panthers, again, making up teams here. You're not getting those same Sleep Number commercials. You're not getting the same clout. You're not getting the same fortune and fame that you're getting off the field that you get on the field. Because guess what? If you don't win in Pittsburgh, definitely no one cares about you. As long as you have that star on your helmet, you're still pretty relevant because we are the Dallas Cowboys. And if you can't see the value in that, it's not our job to convince you. At this point, you're a grown man, right? Your wife's pregnant or just had a baby. Like you are a man now. You are not some 24-year-old little boy when you first entered the league. You are a man. If you cannot see that this is the way the business works, then you know what? Goodbye and good luck. Best of luck winning a Super Bowl in Carolina. I'm happy you got your money. We'll see you never. You know, and that's the way you kind of got to do it because why are you happy with how things are going? Where do you think things will suddenly get better with Dak right now with Dallas? How is it just magically all going to work out? I don't see it. I don't see how it could, you know, magically just suddenly begin to work out. So moving on or making him take a legitimate, you know, appropriate deal is the decision that needs to happen.
Agent, I think, unless you win the Super Bowl and you're willing to pay him whatever. So financially, it could make sense for them.
So that's, if I may jump back in,
what I was wondering.
This is where I think the leverage could flip back to the Cowboys. Right now, the leverage is you can't tag me, you can't trade me. I'm going to be a free agent. My cap hit's enormous. If I'm not on your team because of how you structured it, you have $40 million in dead money next year, all of it. If the Cowboys were to, I don't want to say call that bluff, but be like, we're just going to let this year play out. Then it comes to, then this happens. How much is being the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys worth to Dak Prescott? Because I was thinking
he's
about...
He's not nearly as big as he is right now if he's playing for another team.
Exactly. That's my point. And so, and what are the teams...
Do I know what I'm talking about, or do I know what I'm talking about?
Would be in the market for a quarterback a year from now? Because a lot of them are, you know, the Patriots, for example, we think are drafting a guy this year. We know the Bears are. So I made a list, by the way. Tennessee could be, if Will Levis is gone. The Raiders, if they don't draft a guy, are on the list. Seattle, maybe. Okay. And then potentially both of the new teams.
You didn't put the Broncos in
there? The Jets and the Giants. I think the Broncos are drafting a guy this year.
Okay.
But the Raiders or Broncos, one of them will be. So the two New York teams are intriguing as possibilities. Right. But everywhere else, if I'm the Cowboys and I'm saying Dak Prescott, man, if this is about winning, we're in a better position than Seattle, Vegas, or Tennessee. And if it's about money, how much more money are they going to pay you that is then going to cost you in that you are now the Tennessee Titans starting quarterback versus the Dallas Cowboys?
A celebrity.
Exactly.
And you're going to the AFC in that scenario.
Right.
Stay in the NFC.
And so I know I'm kind of picking those teams, but there's only 32 teams. We know 25 of them would not be in the market for Dak.
Look, only a few teams went out. Nobody was willing to break the bank for Lamar.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do think if they let it, I know he wanted the fully guaranteed deal.
No, but I think.
But let Dak go out there next summer, next offseason. I don't think anybody's offering him $60 million.
No, that's nonsense about the Lamar. Stop. Can we stop with that BS narrative? They were going to have to give up all this draft capital and pay him a ton of money, which if you had to do that to get Lamar Jackson, I don't care how great Lamar Jackson is, it cripples your franchise. So great, you have a great quarterback, but you're paying him all this money and you gave up all this draft capital. It makes it brutally impossible, not to mention it was pretty much known that the Ravens weren't going to let him go, so why would anyone waste his time? So this whole idea, that's just kind of absurd. That like, well, Lamar didn't get this, so like, why would Dak? Like, enough of that. Enough of that.
You were willing to go out for Kirk, too, when he was available.
So The question is Dak the guy? And as you said, how much is the star on your helmet worth? So this is Josh's graphic about the last two Cowboys quarterbacks, Romo and Dak. Very similar numbers, and we've seen Romo sort of walk into a king's fortune on broadcasting. He's a solid broadcaster. Some people have some.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I just don't know where in the world this equates to $60+ million contract. I really, really don't. So, you know, the Cowboys are in an interesting situation. I'm really curious to see what Jerry does and how Dak, you know, takes it if he doesn't get the extension and he plays on this 1-year deal. And it's like, you know, the only way it truly works out is if Dak wins the Super Bowl with Dallas, right? And then they're like, fine, we'll pay you whatever you want. But, like, you know, outside of that, it's just like, and again, what are the odds of that happening? Slim to none. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. Please let me know in the comments below. What do you think they should do with Dak? You know, should they let him play on 1 more year? Should they re-sign him? Should they just let him go? Let me know in the comments below. Either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. Let's just have some fun. I read every single comment. So let me see what you have to say. And please don't forget to subscribe. As I said, we are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.